Hello everyone. Today we're going to be making and canning Chipotle Tomatillo Salsa. I got the recipe from the all-new Ball Book of Canning and Preserving, and this is quickly becoming one of my favorite canning cookbooks. So I'll be sure to leave a link to that in the description. I'll also be using my Nesco canner to water bath can this recipe. Okay, so let's go over the ingredients. The first thing is that you need 2 pounds of tomatillos that you have husked and washed. And I recommend buying a little extra. I bought 2 1/4 pounds. And that worked out well because a couple of them, when I took the husk off, I found that they were kind of shriveled up or just not very nice. So I still had plenty since I bought a little bit of extra. Okay, you'll also need 1 small onion that you have not peeled, which is a little bit different, but that's what the instructions say. And we will be removing the peels before adding it into the salsa. You'll also need 4 cloves of garlic that are peeled, 1/4 cup of fresh lime juice. Now, a lot of times canning recipes call for bottled lime. This called for fresh lime. And it said about 3 large limes. I bought a little extra, and I actually have a little bit more than 1/4 cup, but that's not a bad thing because with water bath canning, you need to make sure to have plenty of acid so that it is a high acid food. So a little bit of extra lime juice won't hurt, and we like lime. You also need 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and I'm using kosher salt. And finally, you will need 3 to 4 chipotle peppers in adobo sauce. Okay, now let's get into how to roast some of these vegetables to get them ready for making the salsa. Okay, so at this point, you want to preheat your oven to 425 degrees. And what we're going to do is we're going to roast the tomatillos, the onion, and the garlic. We won't put the other ingredients into the oven. But you start off by just putting the tomatillos stem side down. And I don't have a ton of extra room, but I do have enough room. And you'll notice that none of them are touching or overlapping, but I don't have them super spread out either. Okay, and the next thing that you're going to do is put on the onions with the peel side down. And I might have to move some of these tomatillos a little closer together just to have room for everything. But I should still have plenty of space. Okay, and finally you're going to take your peeled garlic and wrap it in a piece of foil. And I actually noticed that I cut the foil a little bit too small, so I have another piece of foil that I'll wrap around it to make sure that it's completely covered. Okay, and then you just put that in the corner of the sheet pan, and we're going to bake it at 425 degrees for 20 minutes or until the tomatillos and everything are slightly charred and slightly soft. So I'll bring you back when that next step is ready. Okay, so here's what the vegetables look like after being in a 425 degree oven for 20 minutes. And before I talk a little bit more about this, I want to mention that I forgot to say that while these were in the oven, I was heating the jars and the water in my Nesco. So what I did is I put, the recipe should fill 4 pints, that's what it says, or half pints rather. I put 5 in plus a few extra jars, filled it with water, and then I did something that I haven't done before, and that was use the brown setting to heat the water. And once it got hot, I just turned it off and I've kept the lid on. So the jars are hot and the water's hot. Okay, so you can see that the onions began to char and the tomatillos didn't really char, they just kind of exploded, kind of They're obviously, rather than being partly soft, they're completely soft, which that's totally fine. And then here's the garlic. So I've been letting it sit for about 5 minutes or so to cool down. And so, because you need to let them cool until they're cool enough to handle. Then remove the peels, and we're going to put the onions, minus the peels, into the blender. And again, these are still warm, but I can just barely handle them. And again, removing the peel and putting the onion in. And I'm going to go ahead and actually let me move these peels into a little bowl here, because I think what I'm going to do, this is going to be kind of messy, but I think I'm going to try to just lift up this pan and dump the tomatillos in. So that's why I want to get all of this debris off. So there's the garlic. And now it's cool enough for me to handle. Otherwise I'd use a pot holder. And I'm just going to pour. I think I need to get a spatula here to help me direct everything into the blender. And of course I'm putting the juice in. The juice is very flavorful and no reason to discard it. All right. Okay, now I need to blend these up. Oh, wait a minute. I forgot to add the other ingredients. Now I put the lime juice, the salt, and the chipotle peppers that are in adobo sauce. Put all those into the blender. Okay, now I'm going to start off a little bit cautiously because I'm famous for having, when stuff is hot in a blender, having it just splatter all over the place. So I'm going to leave this a little bit open and, oops, oh, there we go. And I'm going to, oops, there we go. I didn't have this all the way down, so the blender didn't want to start. But I'm going to just start on low to keep things from splattering, and then I'm going to go to higher until it's smooth. Looks pretty smooth actually already, but just to make sure, I'm going to put it on high for just a minute. Right, so the salsa is now ready to be put into the jars. So let's go ahead and move on to that part now. Okay, so now it's time to fill the jars, and they need a 1/2 inch headspace. Normally I use a funnel, but since, and I have it there just in case I find that I need it, but since I have this in a blender, I'm just going to pour it in. And I'm doing it for now up to the bottom rim, and I may adapt it. Now this did say that it makes 4 pints. We'll see. I have 5 jars ready just in case. Oh, whoops, that's a little bit full, but they got it pretty good. I'm actually just going to pour this in here in case I need to add any to it. So that's nice. It often doesn't work out to where it fills it up exactly right. So you can see that right now in this little headspace tool, there's 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, and so on. And so if I go like this, it's just a little bit shy of a 1/2 inch, and I haven't debubbled yet. So I probably am going to need, this one's a little bit full, I probably will need the little bit from here. So let's go ahead and debubble each of them. Okay, and I need to grab a spoon so I can distribute the salsa a little bit more evenly. So you can see this one is about perfect. My husband's getting a spoon for me. This one, I need a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. So basically, I'm just going to take this extra salsa and spoon a little bit into each of the jars. Because it's almost enough as it is. And so, wow, it's not very often that something comes out that close. So it's actually kind of nice. Okay, I'm actually going to leave just this teeny bit in because I want to taste this and see what it tastes like. But I will do that at the end. So I can let you guys know what I think about the taste. So now that the jars are filled and debubbled, I'm going to wipe the rims with a paper towel that I've dipped in vinegar. And this is necessary just to make sure that if there was any debris on them, any little specks of food, anything like that, that it gets wiped off. All right. And I actually should run my fingers around the rims just to make sure that there's no nicks or anything. I often forget to do that, but that's just a general good practice. Now that I've touched them, I'm wiping them again. Okay, now I'm going to put the rings on fingertip tight. So first I'll just put a lid on each one. And we'll do fingertip tight. And that basically means I like doing it until there's just a little bit of resistance and then go just a teeny bit more. So you don't want to crank them on too tight. Okay, now it's time to put them into the canner. Okay, so now we're going to put the jars into the canner. I have hot water in already. I don't know if you can see, I have 2-pint jars that are full of water. You want to run a full canner, and so that's what those are for. There's no lids on them or anything. And I'm going to go ahead and put in the salsa. And I'll put one right in the middle. Okay, now you can see that there's water covering the lids, but it needs to be about 1 inch above. And so it's always good to be prepared with some hot water. So I have some hot water that I'm just going to pour in until they're covered by 1 inch. Okay, I think just a teeny bit more. Okay, and I've got it pretty much at the fill line. I can put just a teeny more in. Okay, so you can see that the canner's full, and there's a little bit of extra space, but not too much, so it's totally fine. I could have squeezed in another pint, but that's what I have the extra salsa in. So I'm just going to leave it as is. Putting the lid down, I'm turning it to the closed position, and then I am going to turn the valve to the exhaust position. Now, one thing to be aware of, if it's down to airtight, it kind of drops down. It lifts up a little bit when you move it to the exhaust position. It doesn't click into place or anything, but it's a little higher, and that's how you know it's in the right spot. Okay, now let's go on to the canning process. Okay, so this is a water bath recipe, so we'll start by pushing water bath. The amount of time is 25 minutes, adjusting for altitude. Because of my altitude, I need to put in 30 minutes. So we just keep hitting this until, whoops, I overdid it a little bit. So 30 minutes, and again, that's for me. If you're under 1,000 feet, you would put in 25 and press start. Now this little thing called the digital chase happens. It's going to keep going until what I'm waiting for now is it'll take up to a half an hour for a steady stream of steam to come out of the pressure valve. And once that happens, I'll push start again, but I'll bring you back at that point. Okay, there's now a steady stream of steam. I'm not going to pull you up to see it because it's hard to see on film anyway, but you can probably hear it. So what I need to do now is just push the start button again, And now you'll see on the control panel, it says 30 minutes. Again, if you were in a lower altitude, it would say 25. And it's going to start counting down from here. So I'll bring you back when it's all done. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention is that I do this, if you watch my videos regularly, you know I forget to put the vinegar that was in the little bowl, I forget to put it in the water. And as soon as I start cleaning up, because I clean up in between each phase, I saw the bowl of vinegar. I was like, oh shoot, I forgot. Since I just started this, I opened the lid, dumped the vinegar in, closed the lid, and went on from there. So anyway, the water just, the vinegar just helps keep the mineral deposits from getting on your jars. So it's not the end of the world if you do forget it. Okay, I'll bring you back once this has counted down all the way to 0. Okay, so it's countdown all the way, and you can see it says off, and we need to unplug the canner. And it is probably too much pressure built up, even though we're water bath canning. Pressure builds up, and so you can't open the lid. So you see I can't open the lid. So I'm going to wait a few minutes, and I'll open the lid, and then wait another minute or two and take the jars out. I'll bring you back at that time. Okay, the little pressure thing dropped. And actually, it hadn't quite dropped on its own, and I took this little just this little measuring cup, and I pushed it down. Now, you never want to do that with pressure canning. You want the pressure to drop on its own. But with water bath, it's okay to do that. So I just kind of pushed it down. And the reason I'm mentioning that is one of my viewers had mentioned that she was having problems with this valve with water bath canning, things being over processed because she couldn't open the lid for like an hour. I've never had that problem. It's always only taken a few minutes. But with water bath canning, if it is taking a long time, just go ahead and push down on the valve. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up the canner. Okay, and you can see it's bubbling away. Technically, according to the instructions in the Nesco canner, that you should, you can take the jars out right away. I like to wait just a minute or two for the temperature to drop down. So I'll bring it back in just a minute. We'll remove the jars, and also I'm going to do a little taste test of the salsa and let you know what I think about it. All right, so it's been sitting for just a couple minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and remove the jars. And you can kind of see what it looks like. So it's interesting because it's like there's a little bit, it looks like there was a little bit of siphoning because I've got some liquid coming out that is the color of the salsa. So we'll see. One thing else that's a little bit interesting is that there's like clear liquid down at the bottom of the jar. So I think it was maybe just that one jar that had a little bit of siphoning. And so I'm going to use that one first. Okay. All right, so now we have all of the jars out of the canner. I have just a couple of jars that had water in them. Just empty those out. Okay, so you can see I have the 4 jars. A few of them, well, actually just one of them has sealed. I'm waiting for the others to seal. There definitely was some siphoning, so I'm a little disappointed in that, but it wasn't bad, just really the one jar. But now I want to go ahead and do the taste test. Oh, I just heard a pop. I don't know if you guys did, but okay. Okay, it definitely has a tart taste to it. Not a unpleasantly so, but it's the lime juice that's kind of tart, and also tomatillos are a little bit tart. And there's a little bit of heat to it, but it's not overly hot. I don't like things super spicy, and so I think this is a good medium level of heat, and it's definitely one that I'll be making again. So I definitely recommend that you give it a try. Well, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, I would really appreciate it if you would like the video, and if you haven't already done so, if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel for more videos about small batch canning the easy way. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day.